Good evening. My name is still Nelda Schulte, and this is
Still Gil Donkersgoed. Well, actually, it's not still Gil Donkersgoed. That would be a funny first name. So just Gil. Call me Gil.
Just Gil. And my online business is neldaschulte.com, and it's dedicated to helping property investors and landlords with the foundation to build a profitable real estate business. And I started this business because when I bought my first real estate investment rental property, once I had it, I had no idea what to do with it. And I made gazillions of mistakes. And as we know in real estate, mistakes cost you lots of money. And so that's what I want to do, is to help investors avoid these pitfalls with my free and affordable resources. I also like to offer advice from experts, and tonight's topic is 5 ways to help landlords realize profits. And my special guest is Jennifer Hume, president of Profits Consulting. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me today, Nelda. It's a pleasure to be on your channel.
Well, we're very excited to hear how you're going to help us make more profits. So I'm just going to give you a little background about Jennifer. Jennifer actually grew up in a real estate business. Her dad owned a business flipping houses, and she helped him out with choosing paint colors and light fixtures, that kind of stuff. She loved it. And she also learned how to be a bookkeeper along the way, and that fueled her love of numbers in real estate. And then she started her own bookkeeping firm called Coronation Bookkeeping and Tax Services, Inc., where she worked primarily with real estate agents and investors and property management companies. And then she decided to expand her services, and she opened Profits with a Z Consulting in 2021 after becoming a certified profit first strategist and cash coach. You have some very long titles, Jennifer.
We do like to make things up.
Let's just squish it back to an acronym. And she still does bookkeeping services, but she also focuses on business coaching and bringing clients profitability with every property, which is something I love to hear. And it's also a multi-tiered system. But so anyway, thanks again, Jennifer, for joining us. And when I originally spoke to her, she told me that there were 5 ways that she helped landlords and property investors realize profits. And the first one is helping get the financial house in order. So tell me, Jennifer, what that is, what that looks like, and how you do it.
Absolutely. Well, we all know that oftentimes, clients, I feel like, especially real estate investors, they tend to build these amazing businesses, but somewhere along the lines, like a lot of entrepreneurs, their business gets away from them. And so whether they try and do it themselves, or maybe their accountant is just not maybe the right fit for them anymore, what we do is we really help to not only get them to have a great set of books, but we also ensure that they're working with the correct professionals to help further their long-term goals as well.
So who are the correct professionals that help you further your long-term goals?
Really, that depends on the client and what their goals are. We work with a lot of accountants. We also know a lot of investors as well. What we do is we try to marriage the two. So it's what works for our clients. For example, for you, Nelda, maybe your long-term goal is you want to have 20 buy and holds at the end of your property investment career, we'll call it. Whereas others like to purchase high-rise condos, others are more into multifamilies. So it really depends on the long-term goals of the client, who we actually match them up with, because like all bookkeepers and property managers and everybody in the field, not everybody is the same, right? So we really try to help our clients and guide them towards those people that are going to help them reach those goals.
Interesting. So that's getting your financial house in order?
Would you say?
Yeah, and it definitely helped taking the overwhelm from clients, right? I mean, I know I've worked with novice investors before that maybe have 5 properties under their belt. They still have that full-time job. They have no idea how to do, proper bookkeeping. They really, they know what they send their accountant, but they don't read the profit and loss statements. They don't look at the tax return. They don't ask questions a lot of the times they're afraid of those numbers. And so we try to help take away that overwhelm from them, again, by helping understand what those long-term goals are and why they have those goals. I feel that is so important, and through the discovery of this, we help to take out some of the overwhelm in the process as well.
Okay.
So a couple of questions that come to my mind. First, you mentioned that you might do a multifamily, you might do condos, you might do high rises. Do you find that there are certain accountants that will specialize in different types of these investments?
Yes, so personally, I work with about 3 accountants that I will direct certain clients to. So for example, I have some clients that have say 20 to 50 properties, and they own them over a few different numbered companies. Whereas I have other clients that are full-time real estate investors, but they also say are real estate agents. So they own high-rise buildings with multiple partners. And so what I find is just like bookkeepers and property managers, banks, everything, it's not really a one size fits all kind of thing. So the reason that I like to pair accountants with certain clients is, one, it's personality. 2, it's understanding the needs at that level. I think that is a huge understanding. You know, a client that owns 500 doors has different needs than a client that owns 5, as you know.
And another curious question, this is sort of a little bit off the beaten path. Would it be you, or would it be an accountant who would discuss things like capital cost allowance? Is that something you talk to people about when you're trying to evaluate what their goals are?
Not necessarily. I would refer to an accountant for capital cost allowance. I'm not someone that likes to advise outside of my realm of expertise or knowledge. And I would never like to misguide anybody with information. So I'm very much like, here, if I don't know the answer, I know how I can get the answer. And I think that's the most important thing, is being able to connect investors with other people like themselves that can actually help them and further their career.
Well, nobody's an expert on everything, and anyone who pretends
Yes.
to is definitely misleading their clients. So that's a really good answer.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I think that I'm sure that you have probably seen this along your way, because you have been real estate investors for a long time now, but you meet some interesting landlords along the way, and you have quality and you have quantity. And I prefer to work with the quality over the quantity. I have integrity, and I like my clients to have integrity. I'm not a fan of people that are, I don't want to say slumlords, because that, I think that just gives the industry a bad name. But
you know what?
You can say it.
Pull back. Yeah. I just want to stop myself before I get in trouble.
Well, they exist.
We've as property managers, we worked for a couple, and that's one of the reasons we got out of the business, was because.
Well, we ended up firing them because their ethics didn't match our ethics.
Yes.
And I didn't go into a business on my own so that I could have my ethics chiseled away every day. It really bothered me, some of the things. And I always maintain that I would never rent a property that I wouldn't live in. And okay, now that doesn't mean at this point in my life, because there are places that are perfectly good, they're perfectly clean. They might be a little dated, but everything functions and they're great.
Yes.
It was a place I would live in when I was maybe 18 to 21, and in university. I wouldn't live in it now, but
yes,
there are other places that I would live in now. But they had to be places that I would live in, that I would feel comfortable, that they were safe, they were clean, they functioned. So yes, you have to set your standards. Yes, you have to have ethics, and you need to stick to your guns.
Well, because you are the face of the property. And so if you're representing a slum, then you are the slum landlord. It's not the owner. They never even see him.
Yeah.
I completely agree with everything you've said. I'm a novice real estate investor compared to the two of you. But definitely I would say the same thing. I personally don't want to own something I also couldn't see myself living in, again, regardless of the age, like you said, right?
Yeah, great. So Gil, do you want to?
Yep. So you mentioned that you help people work towards their goals. Could you tell us a little bit about how you do that?
Sure.
Much
Of
away?
course. So we all know setting goals is the easy part, right? But how many people actually reach those goals within their year? A lot of people are the biggest bottlenecks in their business, right? So what we help our clients do is remove the bottleneck and understand and we help to guide them through those difficult decisions and pathways, and really help to pull them out of the weeds and give them that overall view so they understand the purpose of those goals and how they're actually reaching them. I find that if I don't want to say we hold our clients' hands, but really that's what we do is guide them through the course of, like usually our engagements are 1-year engagements that we work with clients. And through this, it's amazing the clarity that clients get through this, through setting their goals. Even myself, I had no idea, for example, that last year I had set myself a goal of increasing my sales 50%. I was someone that 3 years ago even was probably not someone who would have set a goal like that and actually took steps to measure it and actually attain it. And I'm proud to say I was slightly off that 50% mark, but I think increasing my sales, I think it ended up being about 48% over the year. I still think that was a great goal, even though I didn't hit my target. It just forces me to get better at it next year. And so through me doing that, I see the value in setting those goals. And so definitely that's a huge proponent to what we do with our clients. And again, each individual real estate investor has their own goals, right? Some are like, all they want to do is flips or burrs. Some, all they want to do is house hack. So it really, really just depends on what their long-term goals are.
So can you give me an example of somebody you worked with who you helped with their goal? Like, can you give me a specific example? I know you can't mention any names. I don't want that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we helped to introduce one of our real estate investors to another one of our real estate investors. And through that, they actually purchased an 18-unit, I think it was a 3-story high, I don't want to say high rise, what do you call it? Like a mid-rise building. And through that partnership, they've actually been able to turn around and sell the building within the last 2 years at a $2 million profit. So not saying that these relationships happen every day, but it's beautiful when we can help investors find let me backtrack. We can help the investors align their goals. And when we know what their goals are, it helps them to understand who they want to work with and why they want to work with them. And so that really, it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage when you see those kind of things happen.
Well, that's a pretty exciting story, a $2 million profit with the multifamily.
Yes, no thanks to me. It was just a simple introduction that, they really took it upon themselves to really improve the building. They really, really did a wonderful job on, as tenants were moving out, they would increase, they would actually go in and pull back even the drywall, which is something really impressive to me. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of it if you've worked with people that own high rises, where it's like they just want to slap some lipstick on it and make it look nice. And again, I'm not about that. I appreciate the investors that are going to go in and not only replace the kitchen or the tiles or the bathroom fixtures, but actually take the time to make sure that their clients are living in a healthy environment and they have proper electrical and heating and things like that.
All the basic essentials.
Just in case there are people who are watching who don't know, you mentioned flips, bursts, I think, and house hacks. Burrs in house hacks. So I'm not familiar with burrs myself.
I renovate, rehab, rent. Oh no, I've got the order wrong.
You're there though, Nelda. You pretty much nailed it on the head. So it's pretty much the same kind of thing. So yeah. So sorry. Gil, was your question?
So just explain what each is, just in case.
Sure, of course. So a burr, as Nelda said, is buy, rent, Oh God, I'm gonna totally get
I
it
mixed
wrong.
you
And I
up.
should have had the term up before before our call here. But anyways, so the typical BRRRR is you purchase the property, you renovate the property, you re-rent the property, and then you refinance, take out the money, and then you move on to your next property. Similar to flipping, other than the fact that you hold on to the property over just selling it after you fix it up. And then your house hacking is where you actually would live on a level of the house, and then you would rent out another portion of the house. So it, for example, when I first met my husband, he owned a duplex. And so he was house hacking at the time. So he was living on the main floor and had a tenant upstairs helping to pay for the majority of his mortgage. So it worked out really well, and it helps you, for example, like if you're really looking at purchasing, quite a few investment properties, you're really trying to get out of your full-time job, those house hacking skills are really cool to have.
I thought you were going to say that your husband was a BRRRR, a buy, renovate.
No, he's a road construction inspector. He's one of those guys who you just drive by on the highway all the time with the white hat on, and you see like 6 of them in a corner and they're all just looking at the same thing. That's what he does.
He's not a BRRRR, he's not a flip. He's
not a BRRRR, he's not a flip.
long-term investments.
He is, yes, he very much is a long-term investor.
Okay, great. So you mentioned helping investors find a real estate investor to work with. So is that kind of like, are you doing kind of like a matchmaking thing with investors, or how does that work?
It really depends. So I belong to a ton of mastermind groups on Facebook, and also some private groups as well. We do almost like we do like Ontario versus BC flips. And so it very much can get competitive in some of the groups. And some of the groups are free, especially if you're on Facebook, whereas some of them are paid mastermind groups. Some of the group members I know because I work with them. And so what they do is they invite me in to basically guest speak, and I get to just listen in on some of their meetings, which helps me learn more about the industry and what our investors go through, because I have my own experiences and I hear about theirs, but it's every time I get to hear about someone's like knowledge in the industry and how they gained it. And it's really interesting to hear the amazing cases and then the not so amazing cases. And so what I do is I try and focus on, when I hear someone has, again, going back to those goals, when I hear that maybe John Doe over here has the same kind of goals that Jane Doe has over here, I try to make introductions. I don't make any money off of it. It's just, something that I do. And so if I can help anybody, say, hey, this mastermind group might be great for you, or maybe talk to this person, and just simply make those introductions, I'm happy to do so. I think that we are, we're community made and we're community built. And so we just are stronger together.
So it's not really a service that you offer as part of your profits consulting business. It's just sort of a kind of an extra that you do if you can find the right kind of match of people.
Correct. Yeah. So I've never had a particular instance where someone just comes to me just looking for an introduction. And maybe I should start to pull a revenue stream out of this. I mean, now you're getting me thinking here. But
it's got 2% more to go to hit your 50% goal.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. I could have maybe hit 51 or 52% if that was the case.
Yeah, come on.
But no, it's for me, it's I get satisfaction out of seeing people build their relationships with other people, and knowing that the good word of mouth that they're going to turn around and say, hey, Jen gave you this great referral, contact her for this. I'm a social butterfly. I love chatting with people. COVID has been the worst thing for me because I'm now one of these like close talkers when I go places, and I'm like, it's somebody and you're a person and you're not just on a screen. Talk to me. I could chat to a paper bag. It wouldn't matter. So I think that if I can make those introductions, again, and it not be monetary, that's completely okay with me, because it's my purpose is to serve.
Excellent.
So I think finding investors is the biggest problem that most real estate investors have? Like if they don't have the cash themselves, do you find it difficult to match real estate well, people who want to have their own properties with the people with the capital to help?
So yes and no. So I think that I've had probably a unique experience where I have worked with a lot more seasoned investors. So the investors that I usually work with are well established, have financing, whether it be at a primary bank or a secondary lender, or they know different groups, things like that. Again, if I can make introductions along the way and say, hey, check out this group for financing, I'm more than happy to do so. Again, I know lots of names in the industry. So if I can ever pass along the name of someone that I think is going to be beneficial for someone, absolutely.
So if you have people, excuse me, who are looking to join a mastermind group for investors, what would you recommend that they do?
I would recommend, again, that it go back to their goal setting. What is the purpose? What do you want to get out of the mastermind groups? Some mastermind groups, like I said, that I belong to are more competitive. They're more about, okay, well, we're going to go and get 40 homes this year and you're going to go and get 42. Whereas others are more about education, building on the I don't want to say starting from the ground up, but basically helping your landlords and your investors understand what they're getting into. So for example, I had a client recently who has purchased a ton of multifamilies, but mostly duplexes and triplexes. And now he's starting to look at, he wants to go into sixplexes, eightplexes. And so with him, it was important to make an introduction to a better mastermind group, because he now is connected with a higher level of people that can kind of have been there and done that and can help him through those difficult decisions.
So where do you find these groups? Are they on Facebook or?
Yeah, so a lot of it is really through years and years of building my client base in the bookkeeping world. I opened up Coronation Bookkeeping 6 years ago and primarily have worked with a lot of real estate agents through Keller Williams. And because my dad has been in real estate investment since I was like 5 or 6, I've kind of known people throughout the years where I've been able to call them, get names and so on and so forth. And even through, for example, even real estate lawyers that I know, I can call them and get certain names and things like that. And I have such a virtual presence online. I do also coaching for other accountants and bookkeepers. And through that, I actually have expanded, and also with my association with Profit First, it also has actually opened me up to a larger network of people as well. So for example, I know David Richer, who is coming out with Profit First for real estate investors, the US version. And so my goal one day is hopefully to write the Canadian version of that, because it's unfortunate, but we really do have such different laws compared to the States, right? So even the pleasure of getting to know someone like that, because he inspires me to then learn more and just get out there and just keep spreading the word of not only Profit First, but just how we can help other people through, again, if I can just pass on a name and it helps somebody in their day, why would I not, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, where you said there's an American laws and Canadian laws, because I've known a number of people who've taken American property investment courses, and then they try and apply those rules in Canada and they don't work.
Even applying Alberta rules to Ontario doesn't work.
Or to BC for that matter, because they all, everything's different. Everything has its own legislation, and real estate is, in most countries, is highly legislated. So you have to be careful when you're taking a course. It's a great idea to open your mind to the possibilities, but you also need to know if they work in your country.
Correct.
Because they don't, you could be spending $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 on a real estate investment course, and you think, well, this looks like a brilliant thing, and it might not be legal in Canada. So, do you want to end up in jail? Probably not a good idea.
Well, and I think too, like I know a lot of people get introduced to real estate investing through Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad book. And so that's a great example right there of the American system, because in that book, it actually talks about, I believe it's towards the back of the book, it talks about like some advanced strategies. So one thing it talks about is in the States, you can If you sell a property, as long as you purchase another property and you port the mortgage over, you never have to pay capital gains. Well, in Canada, they're like, no, 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 we're not getting away with that. But again, like you said, the rules are different in Ontario versus Alberta. And so where I've learned a lot of my knowledge is through REIN Canada, which is the Real Estate Investment Network of Canada. And I really love them because they're solely dedicated to Canadian real estate investment. I've not necessarily noticed a lot about each specific province, but I haven't necessarily looked there either. But they've been a great resource through the last few years as well.
Right.
We've been members, and there's other associations, like we've got the Calgary Real Estate Rental Association, which is another great resource for information. And there's Arla, and that's what we know here because we live in Alberta. I think every province has those. And
yeah, well, Arla and CRA are municipal landlord organizations. So they're once you have a property, with how to deal with it. REIN, I think, deals with the overview of different kinds of real estate investment.
yeah,
So,
Correct.
Multifamilies, commercial, single family
rural.
residential, all the different stuff that's out there. So yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. That's another resource people can tap into if they're interested.
Of course. And one thing I noticed was your website is full of those beautiful resources. So one thing I'm going to plug here is make sure you go to neldaschulte.com, because your website, I was going through it today just before our interview here, and it's amazing the amount of information on your site. You're a phenomenal woman.
Well, thank you so much. And there's even more information if you become a free member. Because I post resources that you actually can't get on my website for free for, once you join up for the membership. So thank you so much for that plug. You're my favorite person all week, at least.
Well, now that I know that I can go and sign up and be a member, I'm definitely going to do that before I go to bed tonight. I promise it. The articles that I was reading on your website were very, very detailed and very specific to Canada, which I really appreciate. Like you said, as Canadian investors, I find that there's a lot of information out there. And like a lot of us, when we have spare time, we Google stuff. And so to know that you have something specific that is not only province specific, but country specific, I personally appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So
pretty awesome.
would you like to take us
Carry
into
on?
the next question?
You betcha. So the next thing you said is that you create the ideal business technical environment. So yeah, tell us about that. Tell us what the technical environment is and how you figure out what's best.
Absolutely. So, well, I mean, between accounting software, property management software, workflow software, payroll software, receipt capture software, there's a lot of software out there. Oh, also email management, calendar management. There's a heck of a lot of software out there. So what we do, yes, exactly. So what we do is we try to help take away some of the overwhelm with that, and we help to get our clients organized. So for example, if you've got half your stuff in Google and the other half in Microsoft, and don't have an accountant or don't have a bookkeeping software system, we help to set all that up for you, and we get it all streamlined. We really try to help our clients build out their processes as much as possible, because ultimately the goal for any business, regardless if you're a real estate investor or not, is to hopefully one day either A, pass it on to the next generation, or B, to sell the entity. And so through streamlining processes, even for example, for purchasing properties, we help to streamline their processes for purchasing properties. So for example, if you're on realtor.ca and you're just surfing the net, you can actually go through and create our whole checklist, which is actually it's inspired from REIN Canada, the Don Campbell's book, Real Estate Investing in Canada. I built the checklist actually based off of that, and I help each client implement it. And it's amazing what a difference it makes. Clients can go from vetting properties from 10 hours of property down to like maybe an hour, 2 hours. So it really is a time saver, again, depending on the property and the investor, but it really, really is a time saver. So we help to again, kind of take away the confusion and the frustration of trying to do all this and build it all yourself. And we really help to come in and help you understand why you're doing it, what you're doing, and help really just to guide you along the way.
So I'm curious about property management software for purely personal reasons, but how many different applications for that do you work with?
So we work with usually the same 2 or 3 sets of software throughout. I mean, obviously, we're always on the lookout for better software. And if the software that we understand and work with is not something that our investor is, or if it doesn't meet their needs, let's say, then we make sure that we know that ahead of time so that either we can plan around it and help them learn the software while also learning it ourselves. Or what we do is we also refer out to other businesses as well. Again, I'm not going to take on a client if we're not 100% a good fit. And part of that is also when you come and work with us, we expect you to work with certain softwares that we work with. And again, if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. You know, no harm done at the end of the day, right? Because I think every day there's millions of products coming out there. So I think it's so difficult for business owners to know what is the right software, even accounting software alone. I mean, you've got QuickBooks, you've got Xero, you've got FreshBooks, you've got Wave, you've got a million different options out there. And so it can be very confusing, especially like if you're new to the game. Let's say you have a full-time job, maybe you just have your first 5 properties and are just looking to start building something out. You know, it can be very difficult and confusing for someone to know where to go and what the right answer is.
Oh,
So
totally.
we just help. Yeah.
It was for us when we had the property management business. There's so many different kinds of property management software.
And they're intended for different sizes of business. So you could probably use QuickBooks for most of it if you have 4 or 5 properties, but you'll want something professional that actually manages like repair and billing and all that stuff too, right? So
Correct.
When a tenant can type in a service request without actually having to phone you, that's a lot easier for you if you've got 500 properties. So
yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? And even if you have 20 properties, it can get overwhelming when you've got 20 different people emailing you and texting you and calling you. And especially if you're, you know, I still work with a lot of investors that even at 40 properties will actually still hold down a full-time job. And you're going, so when do you work at your full-time job? Because aren't you just always fielding these phone calls? And so, yeah, it can be very confusing for some of them, right?
it can be a huge time saver if you've got any number of properties to have a good property management software that does as much of the property management as possible. It's just sometimes you have to pay for it. So
yeah, and something that's
Yes.
easy to use because they all have their own little convoluted systems.
yeah, everyone
They
has
do.
Yeah, and I think what was daunting for me was you may not have to learn more technology to just, get something put in a spreadsheet because it just, and then I found the software people couldn't always explain it to me in a non-tech way. Luckily, Gil's a tech person, so he could understand it and do it or explain it to me. But if I wouldn't have had Gil, I would have been completely lost. Because
As would I, because I'm not an organized person. You need to be organized in this business. You really do.
yes, and tools to help you get there are worth their weight in platinum for sure.
Absolutely. And even understanding, so for example, even understanding how the property management software integrates with your accounting software, which also integrates with your scheduling software and your workflow software. All of these things, together they create a beautiful, beautiful time-saving, I like to say ecosystem. And I know that may be daunting or whatnot for other people, but it's I love it because it takes you from being in the weeds where you're like you said, always focused on each phone call or each text message. And it allows you to then remove yourself and really look at things from above.
Yeah, I find that too, even if you have someone who's always complaining about a certain issue and they're saying, you never sent anyone out. That used to happen to us. And I could go back and look at my role and say, well, actually, we've contacted technicians 5 separate times. We've emailed you on these dates. And these 3, you indicated that, you were going to be there and you didn't show up for the last 2. And so, so not that you want to beat people over the head with it, but by the same token, if they're complaining about something and they want to get it done, they should actually show up. If they say they need to be there, they should show up for the call and then not complain if they're not there.
If I was buying a piece of property management software, I'd also want to make sure it was capable of working again within the country that we're in, because you could have something bought in the US that didn't follow the same life cycle. So that's just a point to our listeners, is don't just go out and buy a piece of software willy-nilly. Know what you're looking for.
Right.
Absolutely.
So then I have one more question, and then I want to ask you about what Profit First is. I actually I looked it up because I was pretty sure I bought this. This is
very good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So tell me how you infuse people with confidence not to give up. So are you saying that you're a cheerleader or like a coach. Cheerleading coach here?
We really try to remind people that they're not in it alone. And I think that, just knowing the kind of people that we have worked with, we've dealt with people that deal with, all kinds of interesting situations. Let's really put it that way. And I'm sure if you've been in the game long enough, some of these horrendous situations. And so if you're someone that's an investor and you're not working with other investors, or you're not working with a property management firm and you're doing it all on your own, it can be overwhelming. If you're like, I've been there where we were at my dad's and he's had the phone calls from the cops at 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, somebody, put a sledgehammer through your front window, Mr. Wola, you need to come to your rental property and you need to board it up at 2 in the morning and whatnot. And it's, it can be scary and it can be very daunting. And so it detracts the clients from their long-term goals. And so what we try to help do is in a way it's like cheerleading, I guess. But it also, again, is removing them from the bottleneck in the situation, where we help them to get out of their own ways so that they can see the reason for what it is, why they're doing it.
So can you give me an example of somebody you helped do that for, help them with their confidence, how you did that?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely have 2 long-term clients. I've worked with them for the last 4 years. When I started off with them, they had about 6 rental properties, and now they have, I want to say around 50. I would have to open a spreadsheet to tell you and count the corporations. That's how many they have. Anyways, when I first started working with them, one of the partners was very seasoned, very, nothing scares him. It's fine, no problem. Whereas the other was like, I've never even owned a house myself, just kind of came into some family money. And so for him, it was every house they purchased was, moved him more outside of his comfort zone. And so they were starting to butt heads against each other. Anyways, they had someone come in and smash their windows while they were renovating a house, stole all the contractor's tools, etc. And at this point, the one client was like, that's it, I'm out. Like, because the contractor was saying, you owe me like $10,000-$20,000 in tools, you're going to have to pay me. Insurance didn't want to help them because they didn't have a certain, lock or security system. And so it was a very emotional thing for this landlord. And so just getting on a Zoom call with me and going over it and really just listening to his concerns and reiterating that what his concerns were valid, understanding them, and just making an action plan to walk through it and say, okay, what's the worst thing that's going to happen from this situation? And even just talking through the situation, making some steps, like making action plans to get out of it, really, really helped him to kind of see the bigger picture. And through that, they finally got their 7th. And I think with each property, he just continued to gain more confidence. And they've had some other interesting things along the way, but none that really stick out as much as that first incident. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember getting this like frantic phone call from him. It was like, stop what you're doing on our files. I no longer want this. I'm out. And it was like, well, hang on a sec, let's dial it back. Let's take a meeting. Let's find out the reason for it. If at the end of the day you want to sell it, it's your business. I'm okay with that. Because I will continue to, keep doing what I'm doing regardless. But it was talking through it and actually understanding the situation, understanding the concerns, that we helped him work through it.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, that does help. And
okay, good.
You just kind of broke it down to like small little steps. Okay, so I understand what's going on. All this stuff is happening. I understand why you're upset and what you're upset about. So how do we need to walk through this to kind of get through this one situation here? And then he probably calmed down and thought, okay, well, I can handle that. Okay, let's keep going.
I've always, my advice to people has always been, this is tuition. It's a shame to throw tuition away.
Yes.
You've just learned something. It'll never happen again. So now you can move forward knowing that's not going to happen again. Now, there might be a day when a tenant doesn't pay, or, there's no guarantee you're not going to have trouble. But by experiencing it, and hopefully you don't experience it, hopefully you learn, people talk to you, they talk to us. There's lots of other people. Hopefully they learn from those guys so they don't have to go through the mistakes themselves. We've gone through the mistakes, we're sharing them. And so hopefully you listen to us, you don't have to go through the mistakes, save a bunch of money. But if you do go through the mistakes, that's just another way to learn it. And if you learn something, you shouldn't throw it away.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have resources like you, resources like us, resources like municipal landlord and tenant associations. You can call and you can say, I'm having this issue. You've got people you can reach out to and get some advice on, because you're not going to know the answer to everything. I mean, there's going to be stuff that you're going to be like, how the heck do I deal with this? How in the world could I have seen this one coming? For instance, COVID. How in the world could any of us have seen COVID coming?
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't looking at my calendar thinking it's 101 years we're due for a plague, so
Yeah, but
I guess I'll prepare for that.
But with COVID, there's a whole new set of rules now as far as entering houses and that sort of thing. So you need to know that. And you won't know that unless you actually either look for it, and you won't even think to look for it, or you go to an association and stands up and says, by the way, this is happening now. So, and COVID is one place where you could actually be financially exposed if you do the wrong thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why you need resources. We all need resources, which is why we like to bring you on and people like you on to share, so that people don't have to think I'm all there out by myself, paddling like crazy. And why did I think this was a good idea?
and often it can definitely feel like that, especially if you're, maybe a husband and wife situation where maybe the husband wanted to get into real estate investing, but the wife did not, or vice versa. It can cause strain on a marriage. It can cause strain on you personally. And so, just getting out of your own way and not being afraid to ask the questions, not being afraid. Like to me, there is no such thing as a silly question. The silly question is the one that you don't ask.
Yeah, and funny you should bring up the husband-wife thing, because I interviewed a whole whack of people for one of the books that I'm in the process of writing. And there was a man who said that he and his wife started out, he had always wanted, when in his professional career, to own houses and to work for himself. And he thought his wife would be on board, and she kind of thought after he'd buy one or two houses, that's it, he'd stop. And he didn't. He wanted to keep going, and that ended up splitting them up because she was so uncomfortable with where he was going financially. She couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And he couldn't be with somebody who couldn't support his goals and his dreams. So, they were both very sad about it, but that's how it turned out. So yeah, and that's a whole other topic, the marriage thing, for another ask Nelda almost anything. I'm not even going to go there. Don't ask Nelda almost anything. So yeah, so now my big question is, tell me about what is profit first, and how do you apply this to your business?
How do we explain profit first? Well, profit first is really all about that. It flips the old accounting equation of sales minus expenses equals profit, and flips it on its head and actually goes sales minus profit equals expenses. And so what it does is it gives profit the focus it deserves, which is taking it first. And so through profit first, what we do is we focus on ensuring, how many real estate investors do you know that probably own, 10, 20 properties, but still don't actually take any money for themselves from the cash flow? And so what we do is we help to ensure that first of all, before they purchase a property, that it actually is profitable. And we're not just going on emotion. It has to work. And it's not even just the 2% rule or the 1% rule, whatever you prefer to use. But we like to ensure that we're, being realistic with numbers and things like that. So anyway, sorry, to dial it back to profit first. I feel like I'm going on a tangent over here. So profit first, again, gives profit the focus that it deserves. So we take profit first. We ensure that we are reserving money to pay owners. We also reserve money to pay taxes, and what's left over is your operating expenses. And guess what? If you don't have enough money in your operating expense account, it just means you don't have a viable business, or you don't have a profitable cash flowing property. And so it's amazing how using that bank balance, just like, for example, I can open up my phone right now. I think I'm up to about 10 different bank accounts now between TD and Tangerine. But it's amazing to me to not just look at, say, $100,000 in one bank account, but to look at and split it up and say, okay, I have 10,000 in profit. I have 50,000 in my operating expenses. I even have $10,000 to be able to pay myself. I also have, whatever left over to pay taxes. Chunking it down and breaking out those percentages helps give people, again, the clarity to reach goals. So we pull profit and we give each dollar intent along the way. We also help people to get out of debt. We will help use the profit towards that as well.
I like that, the intent of every dollar.
Yeah, the intent. So you're thinking of the intent first, and then you're dividing all of your profits and revenues into different bank accounts. Is that what you do?
Correct. So how Profit First works is you basically allow all of your funds to come into one bank account called your income account. And twice a month, we recommend that you actually move those funds to your other accounts. So on usually the regular rhythm for our clients is the 10th and 25th. And so what we do is we will, on the 10th and 25th, we basically zero out that income account and then take the money, throw it into their profit, their tax, their owner's pay, and their operating expense account. And so what that does is it just gives the owner clarity to understand how much they can afford to pay themselves. And what we do, even with whether, so again, this goes back to all the goal setting that we do with the owners, because if someone's goal is to be able to retire at a certain age, that's a completely different goal than it is to, sell everything and make $5 million or whatever it is in 2 to 5 years. And so really what we're doing is we're focusing and giving intent towards each one of those goals. And when we do that with our money, it's amazing what a difference it makes. I just want to share my own story, if you'll let me for a second here. So
if I can, I just want to throw one thing, because we have Louis Salgado was asking us a question here, and I don't want to ignore him. His question is, what amount is considered profit, or what percentage? I feel like you've answered that already. I'm not sure if Louis would agree, but maybe can you just speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So if you're in the Profit First book, it varies on income level. So for example, there's I wish I had the chart with me here. I would absolutely ask you to throw it up and show you. I'm happy to send it to you guys, though, if you want to throw it up on the call afterwards. I have it in a spreadsheet, and I'm happy to send it to you. It's no problem. You can actually run your own instant assessment on your business, and it gives you all the instructions on how to do so. So everything is based on percentage, and it's all based on income level. So the first category goes from 0 to $1 million, and then $1 million, and then it goes kind of up from there, from $1 million to 10 million. Once we hit 10 million, then it kind of stops from there, because obviously if you're in that category, you're in a whole different ball game altogether. Yeah. And so the typical profit percentage for someone under $1 million is 5%. But what we encourage everybody to do is start with 1. If you can start with 1%, pull it out and put it in a savings account, I promise you, you will not miss that 1%.
Okay. So we will put that up for Lewis when we get that.
Or,
And,
you know, I could probably even put it on the membership site, the free membership site.
Yeah, absolutely. You are welcome to share it. I will make sure I send that to you, and you are welcome to share it with anyone you like.
Great.
So
So
it's
you're
a
going to
free
tell us your,
resource. Sorry.
go ahead, finish what you're saying, please.
I just wanted to say it is a free resource. So if you search Profit First and Mike McAllowitz, it absolutely is a free resource on their website. So as a certified Profit First professional, I've just rebranded it with my own information on it, but it still has all the links for the Profit First professional book and site and everything. So I'm happy for you to share that with your readers.
We'd love to do that. Thank you very
okay,
much.
so Lewis says thanks. So you're welcome, I think, from all of us. Thanks for the question. It's a really good question.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for
So
that.
you were going to share a personal story with us.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was first introduced to Profit First by one of my business coaches. Her name is Lisa Campbell, and she actually owns Profit First Canada. And so I always get so muddled with these stories because I always want to tell you like 50 things all at once. I'm so sorry. I just want to dial it back to the important points here because I know I have to be cognizant. We've got about 12 minutes left here. So, and like I told you guys, I can chat all night. So anyway, so when I was working through Lisa's program, it's called Accelerate to Advisor. It helps accountants and bookkeepers to go from that bookkeeper to advisor position. So when I was working through that program, I was introduced to Profit First. I was around $40,000 in debt, I want to say last February when I first started Profit First. I turned around and just by opening up those different bank accounts, not only did I pay off that money, but I actually saved another $40,000 last year. And I actually was able to use that towards purchasing my first rental property. So very, very happy with it. It's amazing how, as a bookkeeper, I've always looked for ways to be able to advise clients of certain things in their business. And you know, cash flow tools are an amazing thing. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the cash in your bank account, it doesn't matter what your profit and loss says you should have had in profit. What matters is what's actually in those bank accounts. And so for me, and for a lot of people that use Profit First, it uses that natural human intuition of like, you just go in and you look at your bank balance and it's like, whatever you have in that account today, it dictates what you can afford. So if I have $5,000 in my operating expense account today, and my Visa bill's at $3,500, can I afford to pay my Visa today? Even on every other Friday when I pay myself, even being able to understand how I can pay myself was really, really helpful. And so being able to give each dollar purpose and intent and move it around into smaller plates was so helpful for me. And so I encourage anybody out there, it doesn't matter if and I work with accountants as well. There are accountants in Profit First that are in debt that have no idea what to do until they reach Profit First. And Profit First, I cannot stress how transformative it really is. And so that is part of what we do with each client. We actually implement Profit First in every single one of their businesses. I will not work with someone if they don't want Profit First. For Profit First for real estate investing, it works a little bit differently because it really depends on how the companies are structured and set up. You know, if you have a hold co versus a property management co, but it's again, giving the purpose and intent to each one of those dollars that flow through each one of those companies, what a difference it makes. And even, like I said, even if you can take that 1% and put that away, that in itself is life-changing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's a small percentage. Like most people would never think, well, I'll just take 1% out and sock that away to start with.
Exactly. It's almost like, you know, like if you, for example, if you have, you know, contribute to RSPs or RESPs or a tax-free savings account, similar situation, right? You know, maybe you have it taken off of your paycheck at work. 1% is something so small, you're not going to notice the difference between $100 or $99, right?
Yeah, but it makes a big difference.
It
at the end of the
does.
Yeah.
Well, they say that investments over time are the way to get wealthy. So
Yes.
time is the key.
Time. Well, what if you're running out of time? What if you're not, you're young.
I appreciate, no, I'm not. I just turned
You're beautiful
38 a
skin.
couple weeks ago. I feel old as all get out. You know what? I work with some really amazing real estate agents right now that are in their 50s, mid 50s. We do like a group coaching program for them. And it's amazing. You know, people think that, hey, you get to a certain stage in life and you have to have your, all of your ducks in a row. And that's not necessarily the case. Again, some people don't start real estate investing until they're in their 50s or their 60s. So to me, there's no such thing as too old or too young. I think it's amazing. Actually, David Richer, who is wrote Profit First for real estate investors, started real estate investing and house hacking when he was only 19 years old. And so at 24, 25 years old, he is now, considered an expert in his field and has owned more than over 100 or 200 properties. And he helps investors every day. And it's, so I don't like to look at it based on age. It's, because you can be 100 and you still may not have your stuff together. You can be 20 and have your stuff together. So it's all about individual.
Yeah. And it's a different journey for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. I've known people I had a friend in high school who found a house on the same street that she lived on, and the woman was selling the house, and she said to her, I wouldn't be able to get a mortgage, but could I just buy it from you? And the woman said, yeah, okay. Like, do you have a job? And so she did. She had a full-time job. She was very fiscally responsible. She always socked money away. She had the down payment. So she bought the house. So at 18, she had bought her first house. Her brother and her sister moved in with her. Not everybody thinks that way, though. I certainly did. When I was 18, I never thought, gee, I wonder if I could buy a house from the owner, move in with my siblings, like it just wasn't part of my thinking.
And then there was your young fellow from Fort Mac who put himself through university, bought a house, rented it to a few other folks so that he could live for free. He was 18, I think, in a homeowner. I'm not sure.
And he didn't know anybody who bought property in his family. None of his family had ever bought real estate as an investment tool.
Mm-hmm.
So he was working, he was doing an engineering internship, and he thought, hey, I'm making all this money, maybe I could buy the property. So you could talk to the owner, and he said, how much of a down payment, what would it cost? And he figured it out. He had to get his parents to co-sign the mortgage, but he, so here he is, he's like 21, he's got his own property that's cash flowing, and a very smart guy with numbers, good at fixing things because he's an engineer. So yeah, but those are the young bucks. I've known a lot of other people that a lot of life has happened to. So
yes,
and that's, stuff happens in your life.
Well, my dad has flipped homes basically my whole life. Like, I think he started when I was about 4 or 5 years old with my stepmother. And it was always, I remember watching him and being in awe and thinking, wow, this is amazing that you can do this. And I loved the job that I had. I worked for him as a material handler, just going to Home Depot and getting all the, the supplies for all the contractors. And now to turn around and also say I am a real estate investor, again, a novice one, which is okay, but it's the fact that at 38, I finally purchased my first rental property. I kick myself now. And like you said, I wish I had done it in my 20s, but shoulda, coulda, woulda, right?
Oh yeah, I started later than that. I never thought I could do it. And in the end, it was actually, I did have to learn my lessons. We take our lumps, but I didn't think I could ever do it. I had to be forced into it by a friend of mine, and it turns out it was a great idea, and I wish I'd done it many years earlier.
But there's always opportunities at every age.
Yes,
that's something I want to bring up, because I've certainly felt like, oh my God, I'm so old. Why am I doing this? And it really doesn't matter, like you said. It doesn't matter as long as you're doing what you want to do when you want to do it, and you're doing it well so that it works for you. That's great. So do you have a book behind you want to show us? Like, you've got all these little books in the background. Is there anything you want to show us that you think we should read up on or know about?
Definitely Profit First. The one thing is Gary Keller. So if you're super into Keller Williams, that and the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book are really cool. Fix This Next. I'm just going to go through them all clearly. So Fix This Next is another Mike Michalowicz book. It focuses on different areas of your business to improve upon. And so, and it helps break it down into different departments and different areas of your business. So that one's actually really cool. And there's also, just like Profit First, they have a lot of exercises in there to be able to do. If you're super big into needing to know how to work on goal setting and chunking down tasks, Eat That Frog, and it is an amazing book. It's a quick read. It'll probably take you an hour, like on a weekend, to read this. That is a wonderful book. And then again, Clockwork is another Mike Michalowicz one. And again, focuses on different parts of the business. And same with Get Different. This one I have not read yet, but I do know it's about advertising. It's there for support for the other Mike Michalowicz books.
Excellent. So if people want to get hold of you, Jennifer, either by email or they want to take a look at your website, how do they do that?
Absolutely. So you can, our website is still being renovated, but you can find us at profitswithaz.ca, or you can email us at jennifer@profits.ca, or you can also check out our sister website, which is cbtsinc.ca or cbtsinc.ca. We have a lot of free resources on our website. So we have the instant assessment for the Profit First book. We have top 20 frequently asked questions about Profit First on there, and a few other wonderful free giveaways on there as well. All you have to do is sign up with your email address to get them. There are some other paid programs on there as well. There's one for the Rocket Lunch Mike Michalowicz series. I think that one's only about $100. So lots of free resources, and again, some small paid ones as well.
Yeah, some really affordable stuff, which is really great. So if you're going to give people advice on what's one thing they should start with, what would they do?
Start with 1%.
1%. Save 1%.
Save 1%. Take
So have a
1%
separate
and
bank
put
account?
it into a different bank account,
Okay.
and do everything you can to make it as inconvenient for you to access that money as possible. So if you need to not have a debit card and you need to have dual signatures, do whatever you need to do. The beautiful thing is banks are still very archaic. So they like it when you go in there, and they like it when you have to show ID to take your money out. So, you know, we really tailor these things based on clients, but that's one thing I would say is start with 1%.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. So thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer. It was an absolute pleasure. It was wonderful to hear all your information. And you kind of sparked my interest for all kinds of other things that I'm thinking we could bring onto the program. Like, I think maybe some of your investors who bought multifamilies, maybe I'd like to bring some of those people on. There seems to be a shortage of Canadian information in this area. But anyway,
Definitely,
I digress.
I would agree with you.
I digress. If you liked this live session, like this video on Facebook, and this video will also be uploaded onto my YouTube channel tomorrow. My YouTube channel is Nelda Schulte. Subscribe and like it. I'm also on Twitter at Nelda Helps Me. And if you'd like to have access to free landlording resources, forums, and videos, go to neldaschulte.com and become a free member. There's a little green button in the top, and that's about as easy as it gets. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on Facebook Live.
We have a thank you from Lewis. He says, thanks, Nelda, Gil, and Jennifer. Great show.
Thank you, Louis,
Thank
for
you.
your questions.
Yes.
And for all of those of you who have questions in your heads and you haven't asked us, you've got Jennifer's information, so you can contact her directly. And Jennifer, thanks again for joining us, and have yourself a wonderful rest of the hour of your evening before you go to bed.
Thank you, you as well. And thank you again so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.